I'm low-key pescatarian.
I love it.
I don't know if I used it correctly just then.
I love that senator for you.
I'm Reverend Raphael Warnock, and I'm delighted to be running for the United States Senate here in the state of Georgia.
My name is Brittany O'Grady. I have already voted for you.
Wonderful.
So I'm really, really excited to be speaking to you. I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about your story and where you come from and your childhood and what brought you to decide to run for Senate.
I'm the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church. It's the spiritual home of Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lewis. But I grew up here in Georgia. I was born and raised in public housing and one of 12 children in my family, and I'm the first college graduate. I didn't know how I would pay for the first semester, but through hard work, grit, and determination, coupled with Pell Grants, low-interest student loans, I was able to graduate. What pulls me into public service and gets me thinking about public policy is the recognition that I am myself a product of good public policy. And so I've been an activist. I've been a preacher and a pastor who's always tried to create what Dr. King called the beloved community where we care for one another. And now I'm hoping to translate my years of work and activism and agitation into legislation to create the beloved community.
Wow. I just have chills just hearing you speak about where you've been. There's people who speak about where they want things to be, but you've walked those hills and valleys. And I think that's so important to have a fighter for the American people and people who are living in Georgia who need a fighter for them.
You're too kind.
And I wanted to just connect with you on a personal level. And I just wanted to know, what is your favorite restaurant or place to go to in Atlanta or Savannah, anywhere that you are just like, man, there is no other place that has food like this?
So any place that's got good seafood, I'm for it. My staff laughs at me. They say that I'm low-key pescatarian. It's funny to me everybody's using the word low-key nowadays. They're over here laughing at me right now. Yeah, I'm low-key pescatarian.
The only meat I now eat is fish. So I'm basically like a high-key pescatarian at this point.
High-key.
So I feel like high-key.
Brittany, I haven't heard high-key yet.
You can definitely use that. You can be like, this is high-key messed up. Or like, oh, this is high key.
But you can't forget about Pascal's now. Pascal's is an institution in Atlanta. That's where Dr. King went to eat his collard greens. It's been around a long time.
It seems like you're really continuing the legacy of people who were agitators and people who created equality and change, like Congressman Lewis and Martin Luther King Jr.
Well, thank you so much. And listen, you bring up John Lewis. Even as he left us, he was concerned about your generation, concerned about the young people, and he encouraged you to keep raising your voice. I was deeply honored to get to know John Lewis. I met him when I was a student at Morehouse College. I had no idea that years later that I'd be his pastor and that I would be with him and he would mentor me even as I pastored him. And he was not a transactional politician. He was a transformational figure whose ambition was not politics, but service. That's what I hope to do.
Absolutely. When we think about everything that's happened, on top of all of the systematic oppression that we're dealing with right now and the disparity that I think a lot of Americans are feeling, we're also dealing with a pandemic and people are waking up early and staying in line for the polls. So it is quite the time.
I think this is a defining moment in American history. We are dealing with several issues, any one of which would be defining for an election in normal times. And we're dealing with all of them at once. A once-in-a-century global pandemic. On top of that, a renewed reckoning around the issue of race in this country, reminding us that there's still a whole lot of work that needs to be done in the area of race relations. I think the darkest moments in our lives, personally and nationally, are the moments when the stars can really shine and be seen, and that rainbows only come after storms. And so we have to hold on to one another and hold on to our ideals and continue to fight the good fight.
Amen to that.
When you go to vote, you see names on the ballot, but that's not really what's on the ballot. Healthcare is on the ballot. A living wage is on the ballot. Affordable housing. I believe in the promise of our nation. It's a complicated story. And along the way, we've had to broaden our understanding of what it means. Black people standing up saying, no, slavery is wrong. Segregation is wrong. Women have had to stand up and say, we too have to have the right to vote. And then Americans with disabilities standing up saying, we too belong on this freedom train. And then members of the LGBTQ plus community standing up and saying, we too lay a claim on the American promise and what it means for our folks as well. Citizenship is hard work. You can't outsource your democracy to politicians. You got to hold them accountable.
Last question. What is your voting plan?
My plan is to go tomorrow morning to vote early, right here in Fulton County, in person. I think vote by mail is an excellent option, but because people will be paying attention to me as I vote, I want to make good use of that platform to encourage other folks to vote. So I'm going to go in person early to cast my ballot. Can't wait.
I love that senator for you. I love that senator for you.